Welcome to Successfully Ambiguous, the podcast that asks, when opportunity knocks, will you be ready to answer? I'm Christine Brooks Cappadocia, Assistant Vice President of Continuing Studies at York University. And on this podcast, we take your questions about how to manage your career. Today, we're going to meet John Weigelt, Chief National Technology Officer for Microsoft Canada and expert in responsible AI. Join me as we open the door to meet John. John Weigelt, thank you very much for joining me. You have been someone I've always appreciated having the opportunity to chat with at various times in our time at the school. It's been almost 10 years together, right from the beginning of the first cybersecurity program, where you graciously shared your expertise as a program advisory council member. You've joined us on a couple of other program advisory councils since then, and literally everywhere I go, you are in the media talking about responsible AI and innovation. It's funny, I Googled you the other day and up came a TEDx talk you did in 2017 about securing Canada's prosperity for the next 150 years. And I can't imagine a more relevant topic, a topic that's held its life cycle. So welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Well, it's a pleasure. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years of having this connection, and you know what a difference 10 years makes when we start to see the changes in technology. You mentioned responsible AI and how that's taken off, and yes, what a time it is to look at Canada's prosperity going forward and how technology can enable that.
Oh, absolutely. And technology is changing everybody's jobs these days, right? We used to talk about, I remember in the early days when we were talking, it was we were trying to prepare students for the opportunity to change jobs every 2 years. And now jobs are being changed around us. Gen Z is changing jobs every 6 to 8 months. So by the time you get them hired, they know where the bathroom is. They're on and looking for their next thing. It's the speed has changed.
Well, that's quite a dynamic to have there. And, we saw how the world had changed 5 years ago when COVID broke out, and we had to adjust how we live and use technologies in different ways. And it was really intriguing to hear how the academic community was at the forefront of relearning how to teach students and making sure that they had the academic integrity in order to succeed in life.
I think we've got to innovate again to make sure that we're helping people adjust in this new environment, which is why I'm so glad you're here today with me. Is people are thinking about a couple of things. I definitely want to talk about responsible AI because it's the conversation we're not having enough of,
Right.
right? We tend to jump on, or the popular zeitgeist jumps on AI as a fun tool as opposed to AI and how it can be leveraged and used and how it can and should be used, which may be very different things. But I
Absolutely.
thought for our listeners, I'd bring them back even farther than your TED Talk to when you were getting started. I know you're an RMC grad, and now you are, Chief National Technology Officer for Microsoft. Tell me a little bit about that journey. I can't imagine you in high school thought, oh, I'm going to be Chief Technology Officer for Microsoft.
It is an unusual journey. I must admit, I was a pretty naive teenager as I was making my choices for university. As I was leaving high school, I knew I liked computers and I knew I liked building things. And so I then put those two things together and thought, computer engineering sounds like a place that I might fit. And at the time, there were only three schools that interest me for that. There was McMaster, there was University of Waterloo, and then this other place called Royal Military College in Kingston. And so I rolled the dice to try to get into each of those. And it turned out that I got accepted to RMC, but on a B list, it was called. Which meant that I could go to a different university and have my schooling paid for. And so I was all set to go to McMaster after the summer basic training, which was revealed to me by the recruiter to be almost a little bit like Cub Scouts camp. Do you like fishing? Do you like swimming? Yeah, we didn't do any of that. And they told me that I had secured a spot at RMC, and I didn't even know where it was in Kingston. I didn't know the uniforms and all those things. but it ended up being a great experience for me. The discipline, the structure was really something that helped me. From RMC, I was supposed to go to the far-flung regions around the world. I joined the military to see the world. I ended up seeing Eastern Ontario in my military career. And so I was sent to National Defense Headquarters, and I was exposed to then secure computing systems. And this is early 90s when, the computer security was called the turkey farm. If you couldn't last elsewhere, they put you into computer security. And so I caught the bug of computer security, went back and did my master's, and then really continued on in innovating in defense around putting email in the hands of the infanteers when people said, look, no one will ever want to do email outside of an office environment. It was really quite astounding when you think about it back in those days. We did national identity management systems. I did computer network defense over Y2K and led a team that developed that. Went to Treasury Board for a little bit, wrote some laws and some policies. We were government online #1 in the world while I was there, which was quite an exciting time. Sadly, I didn't pass my French training while I was in the Treasury Board to continue my career, and so I started to look elsewhere. And I thought, hey, maybe I could go to a small company, some small tech company in Canada. And well, I joined Microsoft, and that's now 22 years ago, and been really having an exciting time being able to serve the nation with a distinct Canadian context. And so, really being able to drive agendas and initiatives forward.
You mentioned having kind of a hiccup in the road that changed your trajectory from where you thought it was going. And that's something so many people are dealing with. As I talk to people about the nonlinear career path, I'm convinced it's the norm, but we're all trained to think what you want to do when you grow up, when you apply to universities, is going to be what you do until you retire, which is not true for almost anyone I know. So tell me a little bit about think back to when you hit that hiccup and didn't pass the French training, and bring me through your thought pattern. How did you pick a small, well, not so small business, but
Yeah, I think, throughout my career, there's been little hiccups. I recall leaving my initial training to from my career field, so communications, electronics engineering, and I had my heart set on a posting in Alaska and got everything ready and set to go that direction. And I really talked it up to my friends. I said, "Hey, this is a great opportunity," and they thought I was a little bit crazy. And then the top student who got to pick their spot picked Alaska because I had convinced them that was the great spot. And so I ended up getting a less than ideal spot, but it gave me great experiences to be able to move onwards and to grow out that capability. And every place, critical juncture along my career has been around having really strive for something and then saying, well, look, here's something a little bit different that can go into that further career development. And had I not been in the military with the sensitive information systems, the medical systems that brought together privacy and security, the early days of email engineering, the identity management, then off to Treasury Board to do legal and policy, and now being able to continue that work. I think each one of those experiences allowed me then to move forward with that. And I've always told my kids, you can only arrive upon a point of decision having gone on the journey to get there. And so what that means is you have to build up those experiences so that you have an appreciation for what is that next path in the road that you need to take. You wouldn't have been able to arrive upon that earlier. And so you've never made a bad decision. It's just that the decision is something that helps inform that next decision as you move along.
it's such an interesting way to think about it. Because you're right, you have to be open to the next opportunity, which is something we're trying to explore in this podcast series. So many of the students, we've also collected various questions from students and members of the York community who are struggling to figure out what to do next. And my question for you actually comes from a former student who is now an instructor who had retired from his career in the military and discovered that the terminology is often a barrier in coming from military to civilian life. You're a computer engineer, and I'm sure you've used very different terms and approached things in different ways, which brings value, huge value to an organization. But the people on the other end of the hiring desk don't always understand what you're talking about. You give any advice for others who might find themselves in that position?
It can be a huge challenge, and I saw that that acronym mystery can always come in as I left the military and went into government, federal government, and Treasury Board. The same acronyms, they seem to be the same acronyms, but they meant different things. And then coming out to private sector, the same type of idea. There's a certain degree of translation that needs to be done between different domains. And so when you think about military leadership, you might talk about the squads of people that you were in charge of and responsible for, and you need to translate that into the management skills that are often sought out on resumes. I had a big aha moment after I left the government. I was with government for 17 years. And so kind of working in that controlled bureaucratic environment. And I often asked myself what the private sector people were doing coming to see me. And what are they asking me this question for? And why are they seeing me this frequently? And then coming over to private sector, all of a sudden seeing that cadence, the quarterly accountability, the need to drive the sales or the opportunities forward. And so it gave me that whole new perspective and gave me that aha moment to say, now I understand why they were coming in with that cadence. And so I always recommend that people take the time to understand the language in the new domain that's there. As you're filling out your resumes or the job applications, do take the time to make sure that you've identified where you have translatable skills exactly against that job requisition. And this is not asking people to embellish. This is not asking people to make things up, but it's to demonstrate where you have excelled and demonstrate that knowledge and skills that you have. So it does take some time to build muscle. I have seen there are some programs that help the military members move forward with careers where they help with that translation. You know, in the military, we had something called career managers, and these were almost like guardian angels that would help you navigate your careers and provide you advice and guidance. When you come out of the military, career managers is yourself. And so you need to build that muscle and skill about understanding what that trajectory could be.
That's such good advice. So now we're facing this new dilemma where our jobs are changing really quickly as we adopt generative AI. And since I've got you in the virtual room, I'd love to get your perspective on how do we, as educators, as workers, think about how to incorporate AI into our companies, into our daily practice in a way that is responsible and not leave it fair, transparent.
It's a great question, and it's something that's top of mind for all Canadian businesses. I've spent a lot of time over the last 2 years crisscrossing the country, talking with boards of directors and C-suite as trying to wrap their head around what these powerful new tools can do. Look, I think I know people need to remember that there will always be a need for people within the workforce. And so we require human judgment. We require creativity. We require empathy. Not everything in the world is binary, and so there's nuance there. And when we think about nuance, it's really important that we have that human factor. But generative AI can also help and assist us with the mundane, with the tedious. And so idea starters or summarization, those types of tools can help us. And so generative AI has really caught the zeitgeist of the community of how these tools can then plan and predict what words would come next and put together, quite meaningful drafts of documents that we can leverage for our work. But they can't put together something polished as a person can. And so when you think about authorship and the creativity, that's really there. There is a great deal of fear and angst out in the marketplace. I think some of those stories that we saw from Hollywood around AI going a little bit rogue have caught the imagination of people. These tools are just that. They're blunt prediction engines. And so we need to remember that. And we need to make sure that we understand how they work. And so there's a whole new field of study and work around making sure these tools do what they're supposed to, because they are working on probabilities and not on really determinative factors. And so, we have people that are trained simply to make sure that these tools stay in their lane and they don't start to become foul-mouthed bigots and things like that. And so that's a really exciting area that's there. We do need to put in place guardrails. And so that's one thing that's important, is to make sure that they stamp out bias, that they're safe and reliable, that they respect privacy and security. Like, those things are important that help us guide the application of these tools. I think one of the things is that people should start using these tools, even the consumer tools that are out there, to really get a strong appreciation for what they can and what they cannot do. Because I think sometimes people rush to judgment and not necessarily understand how the tools actually do what they do.
I'm playing with them myself. We're planning a trip to Italy, and I typed in my tour dates, and these are the places I'm going to plan a trip. It did a pretty good job. It's found a lot of the things I would do.
Absolutely. And for recipes or planning a party or those types of things, these tools are really great. I would caution against using these tools for medical diagnosis. You probably want to see your physician for that. And we advise that don't use these tools for loan adjudication or insurance claims or things like that. There are other AI tools that can help in those regards, more traditional AI tools that do that.
One of my favorite quotes from you is that we need to design the future we want. What advice might you have for students looking to embrace, or adult learners looking to embrace that philosophy?
That's a challenging question, right? Because if we're trying to invent something that's new, um, I have a mentor who told me my superpower is creativity and curiosity. And curiosity, I think, is one of those traits that if we can help remain curious and see the world around us, we can help create that world around us. And so remain curious, look at where there are potential solutions that we can envision. Where are there rules that we can write so that we can own the playing field for those things? My kids constantly laugh at me for all the crazy inventions that I come up with. And, I came up with an elastic band for lobsters that are being caught. That is a smart elastic band with a GPS and a temperature sensor and a water sensor, so that you can know as a consumer where this lobster came from and how long it's been in the tank out there. They just rolled their eyes at me. And certainly there's no smart lobster claw elastics out there in the marketplace, but continually looking at new opportunities or thinking about how things can work, I think is important. And taking the time just to let your mind wander. Sometimes when I start off my conversations and presentations, I put up a picture of some artifact in space, a nebula of some sort. And I invite the audience to let their mind wander outside of the office, outside of the workplace, outside of the classroom, and just imagine and see if there's connections that can be made between something that they've done in the past and something that I might mention in my talks.
It's interesting as you're talking, you sound very much like the practice I started out as an artist, and the practice of disciplined creativity is coming out loud and clear, which it's not surprising that you ended up in an innovation field.
Well, you have to build that innovation muscle, right? And you can't simply sit down and say, "Hey, how am I going to build a better mousetrap?" And so it takes time. It takes the ability to work through those problems and have that structured approach. Writers write, painters paint, innovators need to innovate.
About 8 years ago, you had the chance to give Canada a call to action to secure our future for the next 150 years. How do you think we're doing?
I think we still need that call to action. I think we still need to encourage the adoption of technology. As I look at Canadian business, we invest pennies on the dollar to the US on information technology. over 97% of Canadian business is a small business. And we need that capacity of small business to adopt these tools and technologies. It turns out that less than 10% of Canadian businesses have an IT person on their staff. And so how do you then increase productivity without having a clear understanding of how IT can help your business? I was in Kitchener-Waterloo a while back now talking to some business owners about artificial intelligence. And they said to me, and they cautioned, they said, John, I failed math. That's why I'm doing the business that I'm doing. I don't have the data from my customers and my finances. I don't see how AI can help my business. And I asked them about the wayfinding app that they used to get to our meeting that day. And they said, oh, I rely upon that a great deal. If I didn't have my maps on my phone, I wouldn't get to see my customers and I wouldn't be able to avoid traffic. And that was using AI. And the voice to text that people use on their phone as they're driving, that's AI. And so AI is interwoven throughout our lives. And so how do we help people see that opportunity of these tools to be able to build that out? And it's across all industries. So healthcare providers using technology, legal community using technology, stylists using technology. Technology is interwoven throughout our lives. And so we really need to help increase that adoption, so that we can help increase productivity and the prosperity of the nation now more than ever before.
Absolutely. It's a fundamental, right? It's not something, technology is no longer something separate out there that like it used to be considered.
Absolutely.
John, I so appreciate our conversation. I always enjoy talking to you. I learn something new every time. And for me, that is one of the great joys of knowing you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Christine. It's been a pleasure chatting with you about some of those tough problems that students are facing, some of those challenges, and then sharing kind of my experience around how I've gone in my career. And you see that, hey, it isn't a straight line. There are bumps along the way, and you make the most of those bumps and smile and find your journey onwards to success.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Successfully Ambiguous. Be sure to leave your comments below or find me on LinkedIn to ask your career questions. Like or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And join us for the next episode so that when opportunity knocks, you'll be ready to answer.